Okay, ladies and gentlemen, gonna be super excited to go through, check out some real Dynasty teams here, make some trades, and have some strategy talks overall. But real quick, we actually have Jared out in the chat, says you barely survived having to do another draft, Mason. Yes. If you all don't know, we were just on the main channel live streaming underdog drafts, which we'll be doing every single day until the season starts. And yes, we did 2 drafts. If we hit 500 likes on the live stream, we were gonna have to do a third. We bailed out of there right before we hit 500. It was a close thing. But real quick, of course, I know you're already drafting on Underdog, so just make sure you're going and taking advantage of the free bet that they have tonight. I mean, it doesn't matter if you signed up to Underdog Fantasy with promo code FLOCK 2 years ago, a year ago, or today. It doesn't matter. This should be live for you for the special. They've been doing a lot of these NBA free bets on Underdog. We'll be getting a lot of drafts. Of course, you can find the link to Underdog Fantasy in the description. Use promo code FLOCK if you want to get that. Let's go ahead and a 100% positive match. Let's go ahead and let's dive into this first team. Coming out from Benji. Thank you so much, my man, for being a member of the flock and supporting the channel. I'm going to be really happy to go through and check this out. We are going to have, before we dive into the team, Yo, Mace, been watching you since 10K. Congrats on all the success, bro. Thank you. 10-team at PBR non-superflex. I understand my depth is not good, but I'm really not sure where to go with the 106, 108. Thinking we have to grab a wide receiver, even though we have decent depth. Let me know what moves you'd be looking to make. Okay, so big thing that I want to discuss as we pull up this team here is this is going to be that 10-team, 1 quarterback format where we are starting 1 QB, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, and 2 flexes. So in general, there are going to be 70 total non-quarterback starters throughout the entire league. So I know you were saying, okay, well, you have some decent depth, but your running back depth isn't great. To be honest with you, my man, the last thing that I am worried about in this league is going to be the depth. What I'm worried about in this format is going and getting the highest ceiling that we possibly can pretty much at every single position. So I don't necessarily think that we need to be prioritizing, exactly what we're going to be looking at for our wide receiver. 3 on the bench. We'll be fine. Let's dive into this. So at quarterback, we have Joe Burrow. So with Burrow, I think that from a super flex perspective, it's very difficult to get a better option, right? You have a quarterback that has an elite ceiling both in the short and long term. But because you have that long-term job security with Joe Burrow, where Burrow is 100% a starting quarterback 5 years from now. I don't think anybody's going to debate that. He is naturally going to be at a premium compared to some of those maybe more risky quarterbacks that have a similar short-term ceiling, but more long-term concerns. Like if you're going to look at someone in the same division, like Lamar Jackson, for instance. With Lamar Jackson, you could possibly pick him up at a discount in comparison to Joe Burrow because Lamar doesn't have the same long-term outlook. But at the end of the day, 1 quarterback format, I honestly only really care about the short-term ceiling. So if we really, really needed some depth, a move that we could look to make is trade away Joe Burrow for Lamar Jackson plus an upgrade. Now, of course, we don't have to do that, right? I don't want to sit here and say that's a move that we really need to make. In reality, we're going to be fine with Burrow. I'm just trying to find anything that we can say with this team. Going down to the bench, we have Derek Carr as our quarterback 2. In reality, it's a 10-team, 1 quarterback format. 1 quarterback's not going to matter too much. Now, going over to running back, we have Travis Etienne, who's a borderline top 5 running back in Dynasty. You have Derrick Henry, who obviously is a phenomenal option this season. Long term, you really don't know what to expect. I'd almost say the same thing with Rachaad White. It's obviously pretty funny if you're going to be looking at a year 2 running back and saying that he's kind of in a similar situation as 29-year-old Derrick Henry. But honestly, I do think that. I think if you're looking at Rachaad White, you can be comfortable knowing that you can start him this next year in a full PPR format or a half PPR league. But the primary issue is you don't really know if you have Rachaad White for the long term. We don't necessarily know if Rachaad White's going to be a starting running back for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 2014, where people were worried about the Bucs going out there and drafting someone this season. And clearly the Bucs are going to be in the hunt to go out there and get the number 1 overall pick in the 2024 draft. So they decide not to bring in a running back, but next offseason, definitely something we have to be concerned about. And going beyond here, we have nothing at running back, right? So in general, this running back room, given how shallow this format is going to be completely fine for this next season. But if you're going to look at 2024, when Derrick Henry may be 30 years old, when Rachaad White may be replaced, you honestly could be sitting with Travis Etienne and only Travis Etienne next season at running back. So I 100% agree with you. I think that we should be going through and looking to add in a running back if we can. Now, of course, we're not going to go through and try to add in someone who has a cap ceiling. Like, I don't want to be drafting Devon A-Chain in this league, who maybe finds himself in a great situation, can go out there and can have a small impact early on. But I'm trying to get someone that has the elite ceiling. I don't care about floor here. Now, going over to wide receiver, we have Garrett Wilson to build around in the long term. We have Chris Godwin and Amari Cooper as productive assets for this season. Long term, we have some question marks. Now, I don't think you're going to get an automatic fall off from those guys. And as you're already mentioning, we have quality wide receiver depth. We have Deontay Johnson. We have Brandon Ayuk. So while Garrett Wilson's really our only elite asset at the wide receiver position, I mean, we do have a lot of depth, but like we were already discussing, depth's not going to matter too much here. Tight end, David Njoku, perfectly fine with this, the kind of tight end that I want in this format. So a couple different things that we can be looking to do in general. One, I am always going to be trying to explore moves where we can be going through and trading two pieces for one and getting an upgrade in the starting lineup. I think a potential trade that we could look to make is try to trade for T. Higgins. That way we could get some correlation here with this Cincinnati Bengals offense. Like if we were able to maybe take Chris Godwin, Amari Cooper, Brandon Ayuk, or Deontay Johnson, one of these depth wide receivers, and package him together with one of our first round picks, preferably the 108, and go get a wide receiver upgrade in T. Higgins. That way, I think that could be a very exciting move if we wanted to go ahead and if we wanted to correlate with Joe Burrow. Now, 106 is going to be an interesting selection, right? Because if you're looking at the 106 in terms of a one quarterback format, in the majority of drafts, it will be Zay Flowers. Like if you go through and mark this out, I mean, you're going to have at running back already off the board, Bijan Robinson, as well as Jahmyr Gibbs. And at wide receiver already off the board, you're most likely going to have JSN, Johnston, and Addison. So what I think we look to do is I think we look to wait until we're actually on the clock at pick 6. And once we get that confirmation that all those five guys have already gone, then I think we immediately go through and throw it on the trade block. Because I think Zay Flowers is the profile where he could really make an impact in like a 12-team start 10, a 12-team start 11 league where you have, say, 3 starting wide receiver slots and 3 to 4 flexes. There, I think Zay Flowers could be a weekly contributor and really make a difference. But in this kind of format where we're already benching Brandon Ayuk, bringing in Zay Flowers really doesn't do anything for our team. So if we get confirmation that Zay Flowers is the pick at 6, I would immediately look to go through and look to try to trade pick 6 for a running back in return. Now, let me head over to flockfantasy.com real quick. That way we can go ahead and that way we can pull up exactly what running backs we'd be looking at for the 6th pick. And as I do this, my friend, I am sorry you're going to have to hear this, but let me get in a quick ad real quick. Of course, if you are not already on flockfantasy.com, you can find the link in the live chat, in the description, and the comment section. Sign up to flockfantasy.com with promo code FLOCK. You're going to get all my rankings. You're going to get your team highlighted in one of these live streams where I'll break it down myself with promo code FLOCK. You can come on the live stream with us. I mean, we did that this weekend with some members of the Flock. You can submit your own articles on flockfantasy.com. We have so much fun stuff going on. But anyway, now I've had a chance to pull up the running back list. If we were looking at running backs that we would like to trade pick 6 for in this kind of league with this roster in particular, I would really like to look to move pick 6 for maybe Najee Harris. I think that'd be a no-brainer. Maybe Kenneth Walker if he's worried about the Zach Charbonnet acquisition. I'd be happy to move him for Tony Pollard. I'd be happy to move for Ramondre Stevenson. Really, any running back that's hovering around running back 12 on flockfantasy.com, I'd love to move that pick 6 for. And if we really get desperate and we really don't want to take Zay Flowers, I'll move him for Dameon Pierce as well. But of course, I'd rather wait to see if any of those top 5 guys are going to fall to us at pick 6, get confirmation that they are or they aren't. And then also what we're going to look to do with pick 8 is we're going to plan A, try to package it with one of our current wide receivers and go out there and get an upgrade. I mean, hell, maybe we could go Garrett Wilson 108 and try to get Jamar Chase. If that works, beautiful. But like we said, I think that's probably not going to work out for you. And instead, you're most likely going to be best off trying to target T. Higgins by packaging together Godwin, Amari, Deontay, or Brandon Ayuk with pick 8 and getting an upgrade that way. Now, going over to what we have with the middle of the second round here with the 208, keep in mind it's like the 206 in a 12-team format. I think that you're most likely going to be looking at just one of those borderline day 2, day 3 backs, right? I think you're going to be looking at Condre Miller is probably going to be off the board, but maybe Tajay Spears, maybe Roschon Johnson. And of course, you can feel free to go through and take a swing on one of those running backs. Just be realistic with yourself and understand that, yeah, they're probably not going to turn out to be anything. Like, if we're going to be realistic, the running backs there are most likely just going to be non-factors, and we shouldn't be worrying too much about them. But I think that should be it. Overall, I mean, it's a team that's ready to compete this next year. It's like way too good to say, let's tear it down, let's play for 2024. Just in general, those 3 or 4 trades that we were mentioning, I think could be advantageous for this format in general. But thank you so much again, my friend, for being a member of the flock and supporting the channel. I really hope we were able to help you out. I really hope that we were able to give you some piece of advice that was useful. And as always, if there's anything that I can do for you, my friend, do not hesitate to reach out to me and let me know. I'd be really happy to help out in any way that I can. But let's go ahead and let's pull up the next team that we are going to have here. This one going to come out from Perger, not exactly sure. I'm an idiot. But says 12-team Superflex PPR half-point tight end premium format. Hey, Mason, been watching for quite a while and recently went through a startup. Traded Lamar, a future first and second, for Josh Allen in that startup draft. I think I have a shot to win now, but need to hit in the draft. Okay, a couple different things. First off, I like the price point for Josh Allen. I mean, going out there and getting a truly elite asset where you could say he's confidently the number 2 guy in Dynasty startups right now. That's exciting. Now, second off, I don't necessarily love trading away our 2024 first, even if it's a really strong price point to be doing so. Now, while 100%, I will say that it's a good price, we just have to acknowledge that once we trade away our 2024 first, this far away from the actual season, we are all in on making it work this year. And if anything goes wrong, you don't have a safety net. You don't have, a savings account, right? We've maxed out our credit cards. We have no savings account. We're all in to win this season. Now, of course, we bought something really nice in Josh Allen, but you're saying, I think I have a shot to win, but just need to hit in the draft. Any moves to maintain my status as a contender, but also prepare for the impending doom of Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill would be much appreciated. Plan is to take a wide receiver at 7, then hammer running backs in the 2nd and 3rd rounds of our rookie draft. After this pick was taken, we traded the 109 for a random 2025 first plus the 306. In general, I really hate trading for 2025 first. Like, if you think about how far out a 2025 pick is, and I know maybe this isn't exactly what we want to be hearing here, but I mean, think about how long ago the football season was, right? It seems like forever ago that we were actually able to submit starting lineups in fantasy football and make waiver wire moves. That's been half an offseason. So we're going to have to double that to make it a full offseason. Then we're going to need not only the rest of this offseason, but then an entire season of football. Then we're going to need another offseason of football in 2024. Then we're going to need another entire season of football in 2025 before we're in the offseason where we can look to do something with that 2025 first. So in general, I am completely fine going through and stacking up as many 2024 and 2025 firsts as we can get our hands on. But specifically, if you're telling me that we are a team that is ready to contend right now, I'm still fine trading for those 2024 first because during the season, we're going to have a very easy time selling them for contending assets. Trading for 2025 first, in my mind, doesn't make a lot of sense on a contending roster. Now, diving into this team, we have Josh Allen at quarterback, Colt McCoy down there with our super flex spot. We have Kyler Murray down on the bench. So obviously, long-term, we're really excited about what we have at quarterback. Short-term, we don't really have too much to be working with. Now, 107, we're not going to get the ability to take a quarterback there. 109, maybe you could have taken Will Levis if you really wanted to, or instead of taking Will Levis at 9, what we could have also looked to do is we could have looked to trade pick 9 for someone like Geno Smith, right? Where we essentially ship off Zay Flowers for Geno Smith, where if we're looking at this team in the timeline of production, when we sell our 2024 first and we go to be a contending roster, makes a lot more sense to have that quarterback that will actually be startable for us at the beginning of the year when Kyler Murray is not playing, as well as during bye weeks and injuries. So that's a deal that I would have probably rather made with this roster. Now, going over to running back, we have Damian Harris and Devin Singletary. Going down to the bench, we have Alexander Madison. So we essentially have nothing at running back, right? So this is what I was talking about in terms of finding ourselves in a very difficult position when we trade away our 2024 picks. Because at wide receiver, we have Adams, we have Tyreek Hill, we have Christian Kirk. We're ready to contend. We're about to add in, say Jordan Addison, Quentin Johnston at the 107. Tight end, we have Andrew. So we're really excited about what we have at tight end as well. In my mind, we just can't do this halfway nonsense, right? I really like kind of staying in the middle and saying, okay, I'm not sure if I'm going to be a contender or a rebuilder, so I'm not going to be trading away our 2024 first, and I'm going to wait until we get to the beginning of the season, and then at that point, I'll have more data to work with, and I'll have a better understanding of where our team currently stands. And then at that point, I will go through and I'll decide if we are trading away our 2024 first to go all in and contend this year. But the issue is when we go through and make that decision to trade away our 2024 first, we are all in on contending this year. Because the last thing that we want to do, right, is have these veteran assets, have Davante Adams, have Tyreek Hill that will 100% lose value by the time we get to next offseason. Like, I think that it's a phenomenal pair of wide receivers to roster on a team that's going to be contending and just sold its 2024 first. Like, these guys could very easily be the number 1 and number 2 wide receivers overall in fantasy football this next season. But in general, if they're the number 1 and number 2 wide receivers overall in fantasy football this next year, they will still have less dynasty fantasy football value next offseason, just given their overall age profiles. So we've built our team with this really strong contending mindset, right? Where we've gone in with these veterans. We're all in on Davante Adams. We're all in on Tyreek Hill. We're all in also by trading away our 2024 first. So you can't be thinking long-term at the same time. The objective is win in 2023, then either reevaluate 2024 or burn it down in 2024. So what I would look to do is with that extra 2025 first that you have, I would honestly probably look to go ahead and trade that extra 2025 first, and in return, try to go ahead and see if we can get a player like Geno Smith by selling away that 2025 first, or maybe we can even get another depth running back added in. That way we can look to truly contend this next year, because this team's not ready to contend with the lineup as it stands. Now, going to what we are going to do with the rookie picks here. When we're sitting 107, I think you're pretty much locked into either Quentin Johnston, Jordan Addison, assuming the top 6 guys go off in the order we expect. And it's really just going to be up to you if you want Johnston or Addison. I prefer Johnston, but I'm not going to fault you at all if you wanted to go Addison. And just like you were saying, 204, 209, 301, I'm completely fine if you wanted to go through and take running backs in this range. Now, personally, I've been drafting like a lot of Josh Downs. I'm honestly even a little considering Marvin Mims a little bit, dependent on the format. But specifically with this league where you only have 2 wide receiver starting slots and 2 flexes, this isn't necessarily the league to be going through and taking a bunch of depth wide receivers and trying to pile up all the guys that look like Josh Downs, Marvin Mims on your build. Instead, it's probably a better selection to go ahead and take the guys like Roschon Johnson that once in a blue moon maybe turn into a 3-down running back where they can actually make a difference with your overall roster. But honestly, considering the situation we put ourselves in, building around these win now guys like Davante Adams, Tyreek Hill, Mark Andrews, Christian Kirk, DJ Chark, all these are players that will most likely lose dynasty value by the time we get to next offseason because they're age, but they will be highly productive this season. I would honestly probably rather trade away those second rounders and try to bring in some running backs we can feel comfortable about starting this next season, if that makes sense. So instead of maybe taking Roschon Johnson at like the 204 or whatever it may be, let me pull up flockfantasy.com real quick so I can get a list of running backs I'd like to trade that pick for. Like if we could trade for David Montgomery with that middle second round pick, I'd really like that. If we could trade for Rashad White, I'd love it. If we could trade for Aaron Jones, I'd love it. Dylan, I'd like it. Dalvin, I'd like it. James Cook, Joe Mixon, Brian Robinson, essentially any one of those veteran running backs that can make an actual difference. But I think that's all I have for you in this. Thank you so much again, my man. I do think that this team is ready to contend. I do think that you're in a great spot. I just think that we should probably shift our overall mindset from how am I going to set myself up in the future for when Tyreek Hill and Devontae Adams fall off. And instead we should try to shift our mindset to, okay, let's go ahead and let's make sure that we are winning this season. But let's go ahead and let's get to our next team. This one coming out from Filthy C. My man, thank you so much for being a member of the flock and supporting the channel. I'm going to be super happy to go through and check out this team for you here. Now, in general, this is going to be a format that I really like, with it being a 12-team Superflex league. But you're saying, hey, Mason, big fan, love watching your draft red carpet. You killed it. Thank you, my man. Yeah, that was awesome. I recently took over this orphan team in a 12-team Superflex full PPR half-point tight end premium. I made a trade early to move Justin Fields, Zamir White, and Rashad White for the 103 Jahan Dotson, Joshua Palmer, and some late picks. So essentially, we just traded Rashad White for Jahan Dotson. I like it. And we traded Justin Fields for Bryce Young or Anthony Richardson. Now, while you know I am not the biggest Justin Fields guy, I would definitely say that I probably would have wanted a little more for Justin Fields. Like, I actually had Justin Fields in a surprising amount of Dynasty leagues when I went through and did like an audit of our 20 leagues about a month back. And what I did is I went through and offered Justin Fields in every league for the 101, and 100% I'll trade Justin Fields for Bijan Robinson. 103 does seem a little bit thin there, but regardless, you're saying I made it, no. I know running back is a need, and I'm hoping for Gibbs at pick 6, or maybe looking to move a pick for a running back. I might be able to trade my late first for DeAndre Swift. Would love to hear your thoughts. First off, thank you so much, my man, for being a member of the flock. Second off, I encourage you to go through and read the article on flockfantasy.com that we wrote about DeAndre Swift, essentially going through and saying, okay, yeah, he wins by catching the football. He's going to a situation where he's not going to be targeted out of the backfield. Probably not a good idea to be betting on DeAndre Swift in Philadelphia. But nonetheless, let's dive into this. Quarterback, we have Jalen Hurts, Daniel Jones in the starting lineup. We don't have a QB3 down there on the bench, but obviously two super exciting quarterbacks. Jalen Hurts arguably has the highest upside of anybody in the NFL in fantasy. And with Daniel Jones, he has some sneaky rushing upside as well. So 103 will be nice. We're just going to have to lock in either Anthony Richardson or Bryce Young. Essentially, whoever falls to us, a pick 3 we'll take. And I think it'll be a phenomenal trio of quarterbacks. Now, going over to running back, we have Jamal Williams, Brian Robinson in the starting lineup. Jamal Williams, someone I'm not relying on at all with Kondre Miller coming over. Like, you have Kamara, Kondre Miller, Jamal Williams. I don't necessarily think that you're going to get anything there. And then also, if we're going to be looking at Brian Robinson, he's probably a solid running back 3, running back 4 to have on your roster, but not someone we're wanting to plan on starting this upcoming season. So yeah, we definitely need a running back, as you were already mentioning. At wide receiver, we have Higgins, DJ Moore, Jahan Dotson, Treylon Burks in the starting lineup. Going down to the bench, we don't really have anything at wide receiver either. So to be honest with you, my man, we kind of need a wide receiver as well. While you do have a lot of upside with Jahan Dotson, Treylon Burks, it's not like we're able to say that they are for sure things, that they will 100% be guys that we can confidently rely on starting over the next 5 or so seasons. I mean, in reality, it's not going to be the most surprising thing in the world if you see either Jahan Dotson or Treylon Burks just kind of fading out and turning into nothing. Now, of course, these players do have upside. It's in the range of outcomes for them to be very exciting, but it's not like we can just say, okay, yeah, we are solved at wide receiver. I mean, we even have an open flex spot right now. So say if the 106, you end up looking at Jackson Smith and Jigba rather than Jahmyr Gibbs. While yes, we definitely need running backs more than wide receivers, we still need wide receivers regardless. It's not like we're in a situation where we have Treylon Burks, Jahan Dotson on our bench right now. No, if we were to go through and take Jackson Smith and Jigba, he immediately slides into this starting lineup and plays ahead of Joshua Palmer. So I don't necessarily think you need to have the mindset, okay, well, if at pick 6, we don't get Jahmyr Gibbs and we're going to trade out of the pick, we're going to go get a running back, because regardless of what you do with the pick, you're going to be filling a starting lineup slot for you. Now, going over to DJ Moore in particular, this is a wide receiver that I personally would look to sell with this team, because in general, I think that this is a roster that honestly should keep its options open. I think that you should probably be planning on going into the season as a contender, but be very quick to pivot off that contending path and more so play for 2024 if things aren't going our way. And with DJ Moore in particular, while he's definitely very young, considering the fact he was drafted in 2018, at the end of the day, he was drafted in 2018, right? It's not like DJ Moore is going to be a player that naturally sees his dynasty value increase. I mean, even if he's the wide receiver 15 from a points per game perspective this next year, DJ Moore will be either worth the same or less in dynasty fantasy football leagues next year because let's count it out, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. He'll be going into his 7th NFL season. So really, at that point, he's just an asset you're holding for production. So I do want to put ourselves in a position where we're built a little more around youth and we have the ability to contend or go for 2024 if we would like. So if we could sell DJ Moore for maybe the 108, the 107, I would love a move like that. Not to mention the fact that the Chicago Bears were the worst passing offense in the entire NFL. I mean, since like 2008 this past season. The passing volume's not there. While, yes, they're probably going to be the most improved offense in the NFL this next year, the passing volume's still probably going to be very, very bad. Even if they're the most improved, they can go from being the worst in modern history to very bad. Now, going over to tight end, we have Dawson Knox, who obviously looks like he's in a very bad spot now that the Buffalo Bills are taking Dalton Kincaid round 1. So, I mean, we are going to need to make sure that we are going ahead and looking for another tight end if we can get one. So, I mean, overall, this roster has definite pieces to build around. Like, we have some cornerstone assets here. We'll be able to get a decent amount for DJ Moore. Really excited to build around the possibility of T. Higgins, Jahan Dotson, Treylon Burks. But I would, in general, like to more so be planning this out for 2024. And if we're going to go through and look at these rookie picks, I think we have the ability to do just that. As you're already mentioning, 103, I think we're going to go ahead and we are going to lock in either Young or Richardson, whoever's going to be there. And then at pick 6, like you were saying, you can hope that it's Jahmyr Gibbs, but please don't think that if it's not Jahmyr Gibbs, it's going to be a bad pick for you. Because if we're planning this team out, I mean, primarily thinking 2024, but of course, if we start off hot, we'll pivot and we'll be a contender this next season. I think JSN is going to be both a great long-term asset as well as an option that can be productive for you this year and can be week 1, a player we're putting in that flex spot over Joshua Palmer. So pick 6, I think you're still going to be in a great spot. I think that you are going to find yourself with the ability to take a player that's going to fundamentally change this dynasty team. Pick 10 is where it's like, okay, well, what the hell am I supposed to do, right? And honestly, if you're looking at my dynasty rookie rankings, I do have Zach Charbonnet at pick 10, but I'm completely fine if someone was saying, well, you know what, Mason, man, I mean, Dalton Kincaid goes round 1 to the Buffalo Bills. You know what, Mason? I mean, Will Levis has so much upside. If you really wanted to make an argument for one of those guys, sure, go for it. Just in my mind, this is a bet on the talent that we have when it comes to Zach Charbonnet as a 3-down player who gets second-round NFL draft capital. I'm not saying to take him here because we have a need at running back. I'm just completely fine taking him here in general. 206, I think based off this team, you're probably going to be looking at the Roschon Johnson, Tajay Spears, Kondre Miller range, assuming that Miller's not off the board well before then. Then 212, 301, and then the 4th rounders. They're such small assets, and at the end of the day, they're long shots to ever turn into anything that I would almost rather go ahead and try to use like the 212 in a package with DJ Moore to try to get to pick 7, try to get to pick 8, bring in either Johnson or Addison, someone that I am way more confident about the long-term projection with. So that's personally what I would be looking to do, my friend. That is what I would be looking to do. Now, I think that is all I have with this team. Overall, you're in a really good spot because we have those 2 2024 first. And I think that this is a roster where if we have those rookies hit early on, we could find ourselves in the position to actually be a true contender. Just don't overreact. Like, please don't be going out there and trading for a running back right now saying it's get a running back now or bust. Like, I don't necessarily think that'd be the smartest thing to do. But thank you again so much, my man, for being a member of the flock and supporting the channel. I really do appreciate you. Okay. Now, let's see. Sam here crying that we are saying that the Chicago Bears were the worst passing offense in the NFL since 2008 this past year. It's best to be predictive rather than reactive. Yes. That's why I was saying that the Chicago Bears will be the most improved offense in the NFL this year, my friend. I know you are a big-time Justin Fields homer, but at the end of the day, if they are the most improved offense in the NFL, like we are predicting, they're still most likely going to be pretty bad, but it is what it is. Let's go ahead and let's dive into our next team coming out from Bofinator, My man, thank you so much for being a member of the flock and supporting the channel. I'm going to be really happy to go through and check this out, saying, hey, Mason, love the content and been watching since last season. Would love your take on my current Dynasty team. Format is a 10-team half PPR tight end premium league, 4-point passing touchdowns, 2 flex spot, and we also use IDP. Would love to know any ideas that you would have on how to win or blow this team up this upcoming season if it's not working out. A lot of older wide receivers and not much draft capital, so don't want to be holding that bag. Thanks, guys, and excited to be a member of the flock. No, thank you so much, my man, for being a member of the flock, as always. But let's go ahead and let's dive in here. And first thing that we want to be looking at is just the overall starting lineup requirements, where this is a shallower league in general, right? I mean, if we are going to be looking at this, you do have quarterback Josh Allen, 2 running backs with Eckler, Najee Harris, 2 wide receivers with Diggs, Keenan, tight end, Kittle, and then 2 flexes. So a couple different things I want to discuss. One, this is going to be that shallower league where we are only going to be going through and starting 7 total non-quarterbacks. And if we are also looking at IDP, while I'll be the first person to admit, my friend, I'm an idiot and I would not really be able to help you out much at all with IDP. To be honest with you, it doesn't even matter. I mean, if I look at a team where you have to start, say, 3 defensive linemen, 3 linebackers, 3 defensive backs, and then 2 IDP flex spots, then yes, I'm sitting there going, oh man, I'm not going to be able to help you out too much. I'm very, very sorry for this. In reality, if you only have to start 1 defensive lineman, 1 linebacker, and 1 defensive back, at the end of the day, it is going to have a very, very small impact on how we are deciding to go through and try to build this team overall. I mean, I don't necessarily think that we need to be worried about the IDP aspect of this at all. I think that we're going to be just fine focusing in on the offensive side of this. Now, going to the quarterback position, I do think that we are in a very good spot with Josh Allen, of course, but I do want to highlight the fact that whenever we only have 7 total offensive starters outside of the quarterback position, quarterback inherently is going to make up a higher percentage of our starting lineup output on a week-to-week basis in comparison to if we were playing in a league that had, say, 3 wide receiver slots and 3 flex spots. So in my mind, in this format, it's even more important to go out there and get that elite level quarterback, just like what we've done. Going down to the bench, we have Carr, Jimmy G. Those guys aren't going to matter with this league. Now, going over to running back, we have Eckler, Najee Harris in the starting lineup. We have Isaiah Pacheco down there in the flex spot. And then on the bench, we have Jalen Warren, Condre Miller. So, I mean, in general, we're just fine at running back, right? Like, it's not like we're sitting here saying, yeah, we have Bijan Robinson and Breece Hall. We're going to be phenomenal. No, but we will have more than enough production to go this next season. I mean, if we are looking at this, if you have Austin Eckler, we can confidently project him to be a borderline top 5 running back this next year. If we have Najee Harris, we can confidently project him to be a high-end running back too. If we have Isaiah Pacheco, low-end RB2, high-end RB3. However, if we are going to be fair at the same time, we are going to be looking at a team where the running back position could be washed by next year. Like Austin Eckler was drafted in 2017, of course. Now, I don't necessarily want to say that Austin Eckler is going to fall off. Austin Eckler has arguably been one of, if not the best running backs in the NFL over the past few seasons, and I still think he's a top 5 guy this next year. But keep in mind, he was in the same draft class as Alvin Kamara. He's in the same draft class as Joe Mixon. He was in the same draft class as James Conner. He was in the same draft class as Dalvin Cook. And look at the expectations for those running backs this next season. I think that these 2017 guys are most likely going to fizzle out in 2024. So we need to be prepared for that. And also, if we are going to be looking at Isaiah Pacheco, this is a running back that has very little invested into him. Looks like he dodges pretty much everything in free agency. Not only everything in free agency, but also everything in the NFL draft. So if we are looking at Isaiah Pacheco, I mean, set up nicely this next year. But are we going to be too surprised if the Kansas City Chiefs in 2024 go out of their way and try to get an upgrade over Pacheco? No, it's possible. Pacheco can't be replaced this next season. So really, this is a room that has a lot of production this year, not necessarily much in the long term. And going over to wide receiver, we can say the same thing. Stephon Diggs, going to be 30. Keenan Allen, drafted in 2013. Mike Evans, drafted in 2014. So these are wide receivers that, yeah, Diggs will be a wide receiver 1. Allen, Evans, probably wide receiver 2 and 3, or maybe both wide receiver 2s. Going down to the bench, we have Jahan Dotson, so we have some quality depth there that we can like for this next season, also for the long term. But to be realistic with ourselves, this is a wide receiver room that is 100% built to win in 2023, and we can't necessarily say anything else about it, right? Going over to tight end, George Kittle at the same time is going to be 30. So if we are looking top to bottom, this entire roster in my mind is set up to be a pretty damn good team in 2023. However, 2024 and beyond, we have no strong assets. So let's just go through the hypothetical, right? Let's say hypothetical, we want to turn this into a rebuilding roster. Say we start off 1-3 and you're like, Mason, you know what, man, let's go ahead and let's tear this down. Let's try to go ahead. Let's earn the 101 in next year's draft. Who would we need to sell? Who's a sell on a rebuilding team? Well, Austin Eckler's for damn sure a sell. Najee Harris is probably a sell as well. I mean, he was drafted in 2021, but he stayed 5 years at Alabama. So Najee Harris is very old if you would look at him in comparison to the other 2021 players. Isaiah Pacheco would be a sell at running back as well. So we'd be selling everybody there. We'd have to sell Diggs. We'd have to sell Allen. We'd have to sell Mike Evans. We'd have to sell George Kittle. So if this team were to decide to tear it down and play for 2024, then at that point, we'd have to sell almost every single asset that we have. So I don't necessarily think this is a team that's sitting on the fence. I think that this is a team that is strongly built to contend this next season, especially considering the fact that we don't have our own 2024 first. And looking at this as well, we don't even have our own 2025 first. So I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news here, my friend. I know I'm probably an ass to say this, but it needs to be said. It's not an option to go with the rebuild. I know you were saying that you don't want to get caught holding the bag, but the way that we've constructed this roster, the way that we've constructed this team in general, we're all in on contending right now. There's not much that we can be doing. Like, the thing is, I wanted to say, yeah, let's contend this next season. And then after the year, hopefully we win the championship and then let's tear it down. But the massive incentive that you have to tear a dynasty team down is if you were to go through and if you were to start to remove production this next year, inherently what's going to be great is if you were a full-blown rebuilding roster, you're getting the 101, you're getting the 102, you're getting the 103, and then you're able to go out there and grab Bijan Robinson, Bryce Young, Anthony Richardson, and that is the number one incentive that you have to turn into that rebuilding team. When we don't have our 2024 first, when we don't have our 2025 first, that number one incentive to turn into a rebuilding roster in Dynasty does not exist. So here's what I think that you honestly have to do. I don't really think you have an option. I think you have to go all in and try to contend this year. I don't even mind trading Jahan Dotson for another player that's going to be more productive over the next 2 years, even if he's a little bit older. And then after the 2024 season, we will have by far and away the worst team in the league. And then at that point, we will go through and we will tear everything down. But we can't really do it until then. We can't really do it until we actually have our rookie pick the next season. But what's going to be painful, and I'm just being completely honest here, is after the 2024 season, when we go through to tear this bad boy down, going into 2025, you're not going to get anything for Austin Eckler. You won't even get a second round pick probably. Najee Harris, you probably won't get a first. Diggs, when he's 32, God knows what you're getting, probably a second. Keenan, when he'll be in his 12th year of the NFL career, will probably be retired, or maybe you get a third. Mike Evans, when he's going into year 11, maybe we'll get a second or a third. Pacheco, maybe he's starting by then. He'll probably be going on his second contract. So it's going to be a long, long rebuild process after we contend the next 2 years. But in my mind, you don't really have another option. Please let me know if y'all think I'm wrong in the live chat. Please let me know if you think I'm wrong, my friend. But if this was my team, that's how I'd be approaching it. I'd be like, we're all in 2023, all in 2024. Then we're prepared to have the worst team in the league in 2025, probably 2026 as well. And then maybe it's a 2 to 3 year rebuild before we actually have some really exciting assets we can be looking at. But I think that's all we have for you. Again, thank you so much, my man, for being a member of the flock and supporting the channel. Really hope that we were able to help you out there. Really hope that we were able to give you something to work with. And as always, if there's anything that I can do for you, please do not hesitate to reach out to me and let me know. But real quick, we have the shoe and asking, how do I get my team analyzed? So, of course, first thing is go sign up for flockfantasy.com, promo code FLOCK. You can find that link in the live chat, find it in the description. Then once you join our Discord, go ahead and in the setup tab, go to the join here section and send your flock fantasy username. Then at that point, the developers, give them about a day, will go through and they'll link your flock fantasy account with your Discord account. And that will unlock you all the channels in our Discord chat. Just give the developers a little bit of time with that, my friend. But I think that is all we have for this live stream in general. I mean, we've gone through a decent amount of teams. Real quick, of course, I need to pull this up. I know 99% of y'all are already on Underdog. Make sure you're taking advantage of this LeBron James free bet. It doesn't matter if you use promo code FLOCK on Underdog a year ago, 2 years ago, yesterday, today, does not matter. That is live in your app right now. Obviously, we don't talk basketball here, but if it's a free bet, I'm gonna have to make sure you're taking advantage. And real quick, also, I'll spam the link in the chat real quick if y'all want to go ahead and get that. Use promo code FLOCK for a 100% deposit match and also this bet. But okay. Now, thank you so much again, ladies and gentlemen. Really, really do appreciate you. Really hope you have a great day. And as always, if there's anything that I can do for you, please do not hesitate to let me know. And yeah, see y'all with the video / live stream tomorrow.